that made so much sense in that moment, because it's like, you have to be able to understand the gravity of what the person is saying to find the levity in it. Like, when people crack jokes about, like, how ghetto or whatever, if you will, like, black folks crack on black folks all the time about the nays and the, Rickies and the bobbies and blah, 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 blah. Right. It's a real thing for these people. They see it in their everyday life.
Right.
And in being able to acknowledge that this is something real, that it's I don't even know how to explain it, but it's almost like you have to be really smart to get that this is a joke. Like, you have to be really understanding of the setup of the joke to get the joke. Right. So when they talk, so in him cracking about, like, the trans community and et cetera, or the LGBT community, it's not him shitting on them. It's him acknowledging the shit that's going on and trying to make it funny. Or at the very least finding the levity in it. Because I then started posing the question, okay, well, if he didn't say something about trans folk, or he didn't say something, if you took away everything that you can make fun of, then what would you make fun of?
Right, exactly.
If you took away everything there was to be made fun of, if black folk came out and said Dave Chappelle shouldn't be cracking jokes on black people because it's racist and it's a caricature of who we are, and you said, okay, I can't crack on black people, and white folks say that it is a detriment to our society, or it's a detriment to the character of white folks and how far we come along since slavery, blah blah blah, to crack on us, and you take away white folks, and Mexicans or Hispanic folk or Latinx folks say don't crack on us because it turns back, it reverts back all the work that we've done for people to see us serious, and you say that. What is there then to crack a joke about?
Right. No, you're right. I mean,
and it prompts that whole, and the thing about this, it lends itself to this whole cancel culture that we live in, because now it's like, oh, I can't listen to Dave Chappelle anymore because he's making jokes about a community that, I'm
Right. It's so
tiring.
It's very tiring.
And all people want to do is laugh. Like, there's so, and that, I think that to me is the bottom line. Again, like I said, it goes back to the whole satire. It's one thing when you're making a joke to belittle a person, and it's one thing when you're making a joke to make someone laugh. It's one thing if you call Serena Williams an ape, and it's another thing if you have an ape joke. It's two completely different things. He's not coming out here and saying, like, trans people are terrible, they're gross, and that's that's not the joke. Right. Lenny Bruce, I listened to one of his records, and all he said was nigga for like 2 minutes straight. Nigga. That's not a joke. That is not a joke. That is just him saying the word nigga, like saying nigga like 1,500 times, saying it as many times as he could say it in 30 seconds. Right. That's not a joke.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. And the whole thing with our generation, as millennials, as we are adults now, we're adulting. Yeah. It's all about cancel culture and call out culture. And what that results in is exactly what you're saying, where you can't have people talk about certain topics, whether it's making jokes about them or satirizing it, because people's feelings get all into it. Everyone's so PC. Yes.
Involved. And I feel like people have to remember when comedians are standing on a stage, this is a lot for them. They're putting themselves and, what they, their thought process and things like that on the line when they make these shows, because they're writing these things, right? They're coming from a place of, how can I make this less serious and more lighthearted? How can I phrase this scenario to get a good solid laugh? How, they're doing a lot of that. And that's I think where I was trying to go with the wit portion. Like, they have to think really long and hard about how to frame something that we can look at very seriously and take it into a way where we can laugh at ourselves. And I feel like a lot of comedy is some of that too, like us laughing at ourselves. Yeah. What is wrong with laughing at yourself?
Nothing at all. But there are a lot of people that can't do that.
And that's the problem. Yeah, what is wrong with that? Whenever I see comedians talk about black folks and the black experience, I'm able to laugh at that. Yeah,
Right.
I know. I was watching. Funny enough, I was watching the original Kings of Comedy was on.
Right.
Like Showtime or some shit the other day.
Right.
And Cedric the Entertainer was talking about, how the old black men stand outside smoking the cigarettes.
With the cigarette in their mouth.
With the cigarette in their mouth, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
I can laugh
you can
at
relate to that.
I know people who smoke like that. And
Yes.
it's funny to me.
Yes,
Go ahead and exaggerate it. And that's what they do too. They're not just taking it and saying, okay, the joke is a trans person. They're exaggerating on a lot of what the joke process, a lot of what the comedic process is exaggerating some of these truths.
Right.
What is so terrible in that?
Right.
Now?
And see, I think people's problem with Dave Chappelle, since we're using him as an example, is that he isn't. And again, I'm not sure if the
and this is me riffing entirely off of not seeing
and
this
not
last
seeing
one.
it, right? And we don't know if people are upset because he said something about gay people or what. But if that is the case, if he's not part of a group that he is joking about, perhaps that's the bee in some people's bonnets, and I get that, because on the flip side, we're talking about black comedians talking about black people.
Yes.
Whereas if white comedians were talking about black people in an interesting way, I think many of us would give them a chance.
We would.
But if they're relying on stereotypes, then it's a problem. So I think that's what people's issue is per se. So but none of the headlines that we've read thus far about his current stand up is talking about anything that. Anything specific. Specifically.
No. Like, okay, for instance, I'm going to click on this one that says that, which is funny because they say he's stuck in the 80s, and then you have T.I. agrees with Nas and calls Dave Chappelle today's GOAT after Netflix special. Go watch that shit right goddamn now.
Right.
So you have T.I. and them saying go watch it, and then you have people saying that he's stuck in the 80s.
Right.
I saw this thing on Twitter
so
the other day.
So who's complaining is the question.
Someone's complaining. I saw this thing on Twitter the other day where someone was talking about why what it was. They were talking about the Dave Chappelle special, and someone said people have been making fun of black women for years. Don't gaslight us into don't gaslight black women into your LGBT agenda. Like, if someone's cracking on you, eat that shit because we've been eating it for years, or something.
Right, got you.
Someone
okay.
said something like that to that effect, because it was apparently I don't know what happens, but something happens in, I guess, this special, and I guess people are outcry,
right?
And I don't know where it came from, but of course, there are people on Twitter who are very much like, they look at black women to carry everything and black women to be the
right. No, it's the truth.
Everything.
Yeah.
And so the person responded, don't look to black women to take a fucking joke.
Right.
Joke.
Right. And to piggyback what you're saying, a lot of people do try to sort of milk, or rather marry not the black experience of black trauma, specifically black female trauma, with whatever cause they have going on. So if you're feeling some kind of way about something that happened, then you'll if you're another group of people, you may try to rope black women's trauma in, so you give it some cachet, and it's like, no, don't do that. So I get that whole tweet.
Yeah. But I think the bigger thing for me overall, and again, not seeing the special and not knowing really what he says, and again, I'm going to go ahead and watch it and take it in, is the whole idea of cancel culture. I understand the idea of canceling some people. I understand, for instance, I understand why people would cancel R. Kelly.
Right, exactly.
I've canceled R. Kelly.
Exactly. I meet that nigga too. So
I get that. But you want to cancel someone for making a joke.
Right. Yeah.
How when are we gonna stop?
Unless the joke is something like,
it's so egregious that it's caused so much harm and trauma to people worldwide, and or at the very least it's it's physically or I don't even know, because I don't even want to say physically, because then people are gonna say you can get trauma emotionally, and yes, you can be emotionally traumatized,
right?
But it's not personal.
Right, exactly.
R. Kelly personally victimized people's children.
Right, exactly.
So yes, I can cancel him.
Right.
But if Dave Chappelle decides to make a joke and you take offense with it, then guess what? Just don't fucking watch him.
Yeah, and pretty much. Exactly. But that's the whole thing about call-out culture, is that you just have to cancel completely, and you have to talk about it, and you've got to get your friends and everyone in your circle to do the same thing.
Don't listen to it.
Exactly. And that, to me, I don't think that's
and I almost feel like I almost feel like some of the people who felt attacked by maybe his transphobic rhetoric before came back again and watched this new one just to see if he would say some more shit, and now they're again like, oh my goodness, it's so offensive. Like, okay, I'm reading here that he's doing some shit about Michael Jackson.
Right.
That shit ain't new.
Yeah.
Why are we upset about that?
People
it's not new.
About that forever.
People have been joking about Michael Jackson since he was living.
Right.
Why are we upset about him joking about ragging on Michael Jackson?
Right. Living, dead, they've been making fun of him. I mean, come on. It's what people do at this point. And if you're a quote unquote Michael Jackson fan and that's your reason for being pissed off, then it's like, oh, come off it. You know, like,
people are not going to stop talking about Michael Jackson.
No,
I'm pretty sure 15 years from now, someone's going to do a special and it's going to talk about Michael Jackson.
Exactly.
Children who weren't even alive when Michael Jackson were alive are going to do comedy specials about Michael Jackson.
Exactly.
And talk about his shit.
Exactly.
So why are we mad about that? Like, I don't know. I feel like when it comes to comedy, I don't want to say it's untouchable or it's not something that we can attack.
Right.
But I feel like critique it and move on.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I kind of feel like I'm not going to cancel comedy because you know what, at the end of the day, we live in such a shit-tastic world.
Amen.
We live in a sad, depressing, I mean, we got this, tangerine tinted buffoon up in the White House doing all kinds of nonsense. We have children in Detroit who can't get clean water.
Exactly.
We have the Amazon burning. We're losing oxygen. Let a bitch laugh. Let me laugh. Okay. And my humor is and then my thing is my humor is darker than most people's humor. And people also have to understand that there are levels to humor. Some people have really dark humor.
Yeah, for real.
Some people, like only slapstick and physical comedies. Some people like, again, more intellectual stuff. Right. It depends on where you are. And so I kind of just say all that to say that, like, as an adult, you have to know what's right for you, what fits for you.
Right.
And if you don't like it, then move on. I don't think that, I really don't think that people should look to comedy as a way to ignite change or affect change in shit in a way that you would look to a movie or a film or a book or a motivational speech or something else would, and I think that's what kind of separates comedy from everything else. It's like you have actress like Salma Hayek, basically, I can't remember the comments that she was saying, but people being in uproar of the fact that she was not taking into account that there are Afro-Latinos in the world.
I remember that.
And that shit can ignite something because that is a comment based in straight feeling that was bloop out her mouth. This is what I think and how I feel.
Right. Yeah. I've heard that argument from Latinos before.
There's no comedy around that.
No,
that was her just saying that's me.
Right.
But what he's saying doesn't have to necessarily be him. It could just be, I'm saying this because I think it could be funny.
Right.
And I feel like you can't look to that. He's not out here trying to start a march or trying to affect change. He's just trying to get a laugh.
Yeah. And do his special and fulfill his contract. You know what I mean? And say whatever the fuck he wants. I feel like, and on top of it too, and I'm going to be that person. I'm going to die on this hill. And it's not necessarily for Dave Chappelle, but I'm going to die on this hill. Dave Chappelle gave us some great ass mother freaking comedy with his show. He did.
He gave us great ass comedy. This man was out here making money on Comedy Central as a solo black act.
Right. Yeah.
Making that money. And then when he turned around and told us black folk that these white folks aren't laughing with us, they're laughing at me, and I'm gonna take a break, y'all called him crazy. Oh, he crazy. He went to Africa to go clear his head. Oh, he's on crack. He's on this. And his joke, sprinkle some crack on it. They sprinkled some crack on him, and all of a sudden we thought he was a crazy old crackhead living up in Africa.
They sure did. And he gave the rest of that money back. Okay, and I know that was a long time ago, and he's a different person or whatever.
But I say that shit to say, like, let the man live. Like, he gave us some awesome seasons of the Chappelle Show. We weren't when he did the skits about R. Kelly, the doodle butter, piss on you, all that shit like that.
Yeah.
We were laughing at that shit heartily, and now we're out here talking about cancel R. Kelly, but we were laughing at the shit. Don't tell me those of you who canceled R. Kelly when you see Dave Chappelle on some drip